The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. Today I have a very special guest, Henry Nwoko. How are you, Henry?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
We're cold here in Chicago. You're having a nice afternoon in LA there. Henry, let's start off with telling us a little bit about who you are.
Who am I? All right. I am a lifelong athlete. I'm a coach, a mentor, a motivator, a creative. I like to think of myself as someone who kind of welcomes anyone who ever needs help or whoever has any questions regarding health and fitness. And I've just been doing this for the longest time, where I've been I'm an athlete. I've been lifting weights for how many years now, and I just kind of kept up with it. And people notice that I'm always in the gym, so they always have all these questions for me. My buddies from high school who kind of dropped off the athletic side, now they're like having all these questions and whatnot. But a little bit more, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm trying to, started my business recently. I'm trying to work on growing that here in LA. But to get a little bit more in detail about who I am a Nigerian American. I was born in Nigeria and moved to the States, moved to Chicago when I was 7 or 8 years old. And it all started in Oak Park, basically.
And that's kind of where we cross paths. I used to teach in Oak Park many moons ago.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that journey, your educational journey. And you can start in Nigeria all the way through where you are now, both systemically in education and outside of it.
Well, in Nigeria, I wasn't really there long enough to fully experience an educational system. But what I will say about their system there is, I think in a lot of foreign countries it's like this. I think they kind of practice that takes a village to raise a child mentality. So, if I was screwing up at school, the teachers were, they're allowed to get the stick and stick your hands out and, discipline me. But here in the States, it's, everything is a little different. Obviously you can't do that. Here in the States, I started out in elementary school, had an interesting time because everyone right away knew that I was from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. But I made a lot of friends there, progressed into high school, played sports in high school, then eventually went on to attend Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. This was back in 2009, and I had a blast. But needless to say, I don't think that's where I was meant to be. I went into college not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. My dad's an engineer. He's a computer engineer, and he kind of wanted me to follow that path, and I kind of just let him kind of, push me in that direction, and I didn't really want to do that. I didn't really want to become an engineer. I went to school as a civil engineer. That was the first thing I, kind of pursued. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for me. So what eventually happened was I was there for 2 years, and I left because it just wasn't, at that time, I don't think Southern Illinois was a really good school either in terms of education. It seems now that they've really improved everything. They've improved on their staff, their teaching, their values. They used to kind of struck me as they were a school who just kind of let in, whoever after a certain point. But I left there because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I came back to Oak Park again, and I stayed here for about a year and a half. And I worked at a retirement home for a little bit. It was interesting. And at that time, I kind of sort of decided that I wanted to go back to a bigger school. So I went to Triton College first. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know where Triton is, but it's in the same area as the Oak Park area. I went there. I got my associate's degree and I was accepted into Ohio State University, where I went. And I was a film studies student because, I wanted to act, and I guess that when I got there, I still wasn't really satisfied, because this whole time, honestly, what happens with a lot of kids is they try to please their parents. They try to go to school because they're told, hey, you got to go get your degree, and then they're done and they don't really know what to do with it. So I went to school at at Ohio State, studied film. I took a lot of acting classes. I took acting classes at Triton as well, and I found that I really, really enjoyed that. I've always wanted to become an actor since I was a kid, and didn't really know how to express that to my parents. Nigerians have a hard time accepting anything other than being a doctor, being an engineer, being a lawyer, something that's more concrete, more guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And actually, this goes back to SIU. I did a short film with one of my buddies who was a film student, and he presented it at the film festival, and it won. And it was basically a short film that I did. I was the main subject, and I really, really enjoyed being in front of the lens. And like, that really made me think, hey, I can actually do this. Like, I can actually, finish up or, move on from school and then pursue this. So from that point on, I thought to myself, I really do want to end up in LA one day. I want to go to LA. I see all these people there. I see, the people who I want to become like, and they're there. Mm-hmm. So at Ohio State, I actually did not finish there. Came close, but then I just kind of realized that what I was doing was racking up debt that I'm still paying off, and I wouldn't have used the degree anyway, because what I'm doing now is I'm a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. I got my cert. I'm personal training, and I much prefer that. Much prefer meeting people. Much prefer being one-on-one in that regard. And I like the challenge of, just kind of trying to start my own business. Like, all the failures, all the successes, it's just the learning process. And I really wish that they would have taught that in school, but.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit then. So that avenue that you took, it seems like, you went through these cycles where, this isn't doing it for me, and you pivoted a lot. Expand on that. When you said, I wish they would have taught me that in high school, how would you change it? If you could change something, not necessarily like you go back, but the system, if you could change something there, what would that be?
If I could change something in the education system, I would prioritize teaching children or teaching kids about finances. It's probably the number one issue in America is debt. You're done with school, you don't really know what to do, and you can just sit in the same cycle for 20 years, 30 years if you just let it happen. And I would teach kids how to invest in themselves. I would teach them how to create a business. I would teach them how to get out of debt. And then, honestly, I would also take away useless gen eds, because in school I felt like it was just a waste of time. A lot of these subjects that I'm, in there forced to take just to graduate, I'll never use them again. So, I think that just really serves as a way to kind of get more money out of people, out of kids. You're keeping them in school longer. In Europe, most of these guys, their courses are harder. I have a lot of friends from Europe who moved to the States, and they're like, school in the U.S. is a breeze in comparison. Mm-hmm. And, over there, a lot of them, they have free education or, super reduced. With
the overseas things that you see, would you change it like the European system, where education is reduced? Do you think that's the biggest inhibitor that you had, other than things weren't actually things that you would use?
I don't think it was so much cost, because I still managed to go regardless. It was just, it wasn't really, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I did, but I was going to school trying to impress my parents, wanting to just get a degree just to kind of, please them, knowing the whole time that I wanted to, move to LA, start my own business in fitness, and then pursue acting.
Right.
So, and being a Nigerian growing up in the States, it's something that, it's a conversation that's, kind of hard to have with your parents, to tell them, hey, I want to be an actor. What are they going to tell you? No, that's not a good idea. That's not ideal. get your degree, get a solid job, which, I mean, it does make sense. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying people shouldn't go to school at all. I'm saying that if you have, how should I put this? If you know deep down that you want something, but it's not what you're going to school for, I think you should just leave right away and go pursue whatever it is that you have your mind set on, instead of wasting time and racking up debt, because it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of money paying back each month, you know, and it can be avoided. Like, I could have avoided this, but I mean, at the same time, I am glad that I went through school, because one of the most positive things I can say about college is that I met so many different people from so many different places. I learned new things. For the first time in my life, I was alone, you know, not living in a parent's house. So, I mean, that experience does add to to personal development, and we need that, you know.
Yeah. What would you say to a young person who, because I hear this a lot, where their parents want them to do one thing and they really have a passion for something else? How would you suggest starting that conversation with somebody who's like 17, 18 years old?
I would suggest just sucking it up and trying it, you know, because for a while I was just nervous to ask. I was nervous to talk to my parents about it, and you're really just hurting yourself if you're just holding it inside. You know, if they're your parents, you know, they might not be pleased to hear it, but at some point they should be happy that you're motivated already to do something else, and B, the fact that you respect them enough to come and ask their opinion on something. So if they're good parents, they're going to tell you what they think, which, you know, may or may not always apply, because how they grew up is different from how we're growing up now. Mm-hmm. So the world has changed, and education doesn't really hold the same standard as it did when in their time, because now there's so many different ways to create success for yourself. You know, now we've got social media, we've got there's so much. We've got the internet, we've got social media, and there's so many ways to go ahead and find information for free if you just take the time to, you know, research. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic advice, and I know it probably it's a family to family, you know, kind of, you can't really answer that all the way, but you're doing some big things out there in LA. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days. You were in a couple commercials I saw. I believe Black Panther 2. I don't know. I heard rumors. I'm not sure.
No, I wish. Who knows? You know, who knows? I'm definitely going to be a lot more active in trying to audition for things. So shortly after moving to LA, I got my first commercial with Adidas. I went to an audition, and it was kind of weird how I got it. There was at least like 100 athletes there for different soccer, football, track and field. And they had me there originally for track and field, and they kind of were like, oh, this guy's too big for this. Like, football, put me over to football. And I essentially had to like try to compete with, I don't know, 60 different athletes.
Wow.
Doing different drills and this and that. And I didn't even get the role that way. Like, I got it because I was walking off, I was leaving. And some guy walked up to me, asked me, hey man, how much do you bench press? Like, how strong are you, whatever? And then I told him, and I told him 400 pounds. And he said, can you provide proof of that? Like, and I was like, yeah, I have an Instagram. I'll show you a video right now. I pulled it out, and then I showed him a video of it. He's like, perfect, we're going to use you. And essentially what they needed was a person who could bench press 2 human beings, one on each side of a bar. And for a TV commercial, which is what I did. And they had me on set doing this over and over. And each person, I think, weighed like 150 or 160. So it wasn't, you know, something out of this world, but it was a good experience. It was fun. So I did that. Recently, I did another one for Pepsi NFL. So they just basically had me in full football gear. We shot it at the Rose Bowl, and it just aired like 3 weeks ago, and I just found out like 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. I actually posted it on my page. And I'm wearing number 2. It's probably hard to spot me, but, you know, I'm back there somewhere standing around. But yeah, other than that, I've been trying to network. Networking is very big here in LA. You're not going to get very far trying to do everything alone, and I've learned that the hard way almost. So trying to meet more people. I don't know if you know who King Batch is, for example. He's one of the he used to be a Viner. Now he's like a YouTube personality. He's got a couple million followers, and he makes funny videos essentially. So I applied. There's an agency online called LA Casting, and that's where I applied to a lot of these things. I applied to that gig through LA Casting. I went there the first time. We shot, I think it was Black Panther. So it was like a Black Panther parody video. We shot that. It was fun. I met a couple people, and then after that, you know, the first thing I do when I go on set is I try to make friends with not even the guys who are, you know, like King Batch. Like, I try to make friends with like the producer, the guys who are, you know, handling who are casting people, the casting agents. After that, she contacted me again and asked me if I wanted to do another one. And of course I said sure, because the more of these I do, the more familiarized I am with these guys, and the more they're willing to, you know, be like, hey, you want to do this? So eventually I'm hoping that, you know, the next one I do, maybe he'll like tag me in the video, because that's, to me, that type of content is more, that type of content is it's worth a lot more than paying me, because I'd rather have, you know, a bunch of viewers able to go straight to my Instagram and see me from there. So yeah, after the last one I did with them, I did the last one for Postmates not very long ago. We were on set filming that. It was at that point that King Batch and I, you know, he was like, hey man, if you ever want to, you know, hoop or play basketball or anything or lift or anything, you know, contact me, you know, via email. He doesn't give out his phone number because, as you can imagine, you know, there's
right.
so many people trying to blow him up, blow up his phone. But yeah, I'm at a point now where I'm trying to go to events, meet people, and just kind of just create stuff together. And it doesn't matter how low I start. Like, I don't care if I'm a background person or anything, as long as I'm just around these people. Because when someone's around you enough and they get an idea or a better feel of who you are, your personality, if they like you, they're going to call you back for more stuff. You know, they're going to introduce you to other people. And here in LA, that's gold.
Yeah. So Henry can be found at Henry_Nwoko, NWOKO on Instagram. And we'll put up his information here. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Keep disrupting.